Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're continuing reading from Srila Prabhupada's books about the process of leaving our body. And we have read through Bhagavad Gita, and now we're on the Bhagavatam, and we're on the 6th canto. And we yesterday discussed about Ajamil, and we had problems with the mic yesterday, and I am going to plug in a mic right now. So when I plug in this mic, somebody just let me know if it's working or not working. 1, 2, 3. Now the mic is plugged in. So I just need to, in theory it should be working, and in theory it should sound a little better, quieter. So I just need to know. Otherwise my mouth is moving and you're not hearing anything. Hare Krishna. So we had been discussing Ajamil at the end of class yesterday, and we got into, yes, it works, good. Sound better than just the phone? It's supposed to. Here, but quieter. Quieter. Ooh. Too quiet? That's weird. Okay, let me do something. Does this make it louder? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Yeah. Anyway, if it's a problem, just let me know and I can not use it. Okay. So, somehow or other, yesterday we got into this discussion about sexual desire and controlling and fulfilling, because Ajamil he actually married a prostitute, or he lived with a prostitute. And I was a little heavy. I put on my guru hat and did some cutting and chopping. Not that I always do that. So what did... sounds quieter, it does sound quieter. Fine for me because I'm using earphones, okay. Strange, shouldn't be that quiet. Well, I will speak louder. So, so the point we were making, well, there were 2 points being made. One is that how difficult it is to overcome that desire. And some people have a really hard time not fulfilling that desire a little bit, and the idea is you fulfill it a little bit and then you transcend it eventually. And that may be the case for some, of course. But the point that I was making was that whatever we're attached to in this world is what keeps us in this world. And that is the attachment that keeps us in this world. So as we study Bhagavatam and other books of Prabhupada, we could see that one of the central points of spiritual advancement is detaching from that desire. And I was making the point how Radha and Krishna, the love of Radha and Krishna is the entire opposite of lust, or the sexual love. And to enter into or to understand their love, we're going to need to overcome our own lust. And I don't know how well that went over, how popular that was. we can see today how many people return. Maybe that was too heavy. We weren't ready to hear that. But another point is that whatever our own weakness is, we don't want to rationalize it into a philosophy. If I am weak, then I could admit I'm weak. Or maybe I think I need something that maybe is not recommended, but I feel it's necessary for me. Okay, so we We can recognize that, but we don't want to turn that into a philosophy which can't be supported. And so a couple of things devotees were saying were a little bit along those lines. So I was chastising. But anyway, hopefully it was understood correctly. And the basic overlying, outreaching, overarching aim is that be careful what you're attached to, because what we're attached to will preoccupy us at the time of death, or possibly preoccupy us. So that's the idea. So now we're going to go back to our reading, because we had a lot of questions yesterday and we didn't have so much time to read. And we're on Srimad Bhagavatam 6.3.24. I don't know if we read this, but I want to read it. If we did read it, we can read it again. So 6.3.24, this is entitled "The Holy Name Will Save Us." And Kamani is going to bring that up. And Kamani, I sent you another document. I don't know. Yeah. If you were able to bring that up. I always send it at the last moment because I'm working on it in the morning. So I'm just going down to see. Okay, it wasn't heavy, but I was direct. Okay. I directly stated the philosophy without sugarcoating it. Definitely I didn't sugarcoat it. Okay. So Kamini is going to bring up a quote. While we're waiting, I will read it. This is from a purport. 6th canto, 3rd chapter, text 24. And again, we're on a Jamil story. At the time of death, Ajamil certainly was not very clean. Indeed, he was famous as a great sinner. He was a famous sinner of his time. Furthermore, one's physiological condition is completely disturbed at the time of death, and in such an awkward condition, it would certainly have been very difficult for Ajamil to have chanted clearly. Nevertheless, Ajamil achieved liberation simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord. Therefore, what is to be said of those who are not sinful like Ajamil? It is to be concluded that with a strong vow one should chant the holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. For thus one will certainly be delivered from the clutches of Maya by the grace of Krishna. So, story of Ajamil. This is 6.3.24. The next one. 6.3. We just read 6.3.4. Yeah. So the story of Ajamil really glorifies the power of the holy name. And then here, Prabhupada's saying that the time of death is very disturbing, but still, the holy name came to his rescue. So even though the time of death is disturbing, if one is accustomed to chanting, then it's going to happen. One's going to chant. That's the idea. And then if one chants, one will be saved. Of course, the Jamil story, as we said yesterday, it's unique in the sense that he actually wasn't chanting as we would chant. But still, the point is he was accustomed to chant Narayan, so that's what he was chanting. So whatever we're accustomed to chanting is what we're going to chant at the time of death. And so that's the one point of the story of Ajamil. The other point is how powerful the name of Krishna is. the name of Krishna, even though we may be fallen, and even though the time of death may be turbulent, the name of Krishna will save us. So it's saving us now, it's going to save us then, it always saves us. And so I think this underscores the importance to chant properly. That maybe this can serve as an impetus. That if we improve our chanting now, then we'll be chanting better when we leave our body. Now, I found a quote yesterday, and I thought it was a beautiful quote. It was spoken by the Spartan warriors, and it's on a topic we've discussed, so I've included it here. Kamaniya, it's the next quote below what we just read. You see that? If you can put that up there. So you can put up this next, it's a one-sentence quote. And I want to talk about it, and I did talk about it, but this quote puts things in very good perspective. Anyway, I'll read it, and then you can put it up. Sweat more in training, and you'll bleed less in war. Sweat more in training, and you will bleed less in war. And I had spoken about this a few days ago, and this is extremely important principle. That some people, there's a psychology where people think I will be ready, I'm not ready now, but I will be ready later. When I get older, naturally I'll be more serious about Krishna consciousness, or some people think, well, when I'm very old or I'm very close to death, I have warning, then I'll become serious. But perennial wisdom shows us that it's not at the 11th hour that you can develop a skill. You need to practice, especially to be sane and Krishna conscious when we're leaving our body. That has to be practiced. So we practice now. What's the saying? Sweat more in training and you'll bleed less in war. So that, I think that's something to remember. This is, what we're doing, sadhana bhakti is our training. So sweat more now in training, it will be easier to leave the body. Less sweat in training now, it's going to be more difficult. Maybe impossible to leave in Krishna consciousness. However, there are other quotes that describe how Krishna comes to the rescue of his devotees, but that's not something we should rely on. We should do the practice. So this is, I think, a wonderful principle that, and I just bring it up because I've seen some people think, well, when I'm older, I'll be Krishna conscious, or when I'm nearing death, then I'll become serious. And don't count on it. And as Prabhupada said, well, you don't know when your death is coming, so every day is a practice. Live every day as if it's your last. So now we're going to go to 6.10.6. And I titled this, Sacrifice Life for a Higher Cause. And this is from the purport. And wait a moment. Kamaniya to get this out. This is from Chanakya Pandit. This is interesting. It's an interesting quote about self-sacrifice and why self-sacrifice makes so much sense in the light of the fact that we will end up as stool, worm, or ashes, but we can use the body, the bad bargain, for a greater cause. So, Chanakya, okay, it's up now. 6.10.6. You're one ahead of yourself. 6.10.6. It's the next one. You have 6:10:12 up, so 6:10:6. Anyway, I'll read this. Chanakya Pandit says, San nimit te varam tyago vinashe niyati sati. Everything within this material world will be destroyed. And therefore, one should use everything for good purposes. If one is advanced in knowledge, he must always be prepared to sacrifice anything for a better cause. At the present moment, the entire world is in a dangerous position under the spell of a godless civilization. There, we have it up now. You can look at it. The Krishna Consciousness movement needs many exalted, learned persons who will sacrifice their lives to revive God consciousness throughout the world. We therefore invite all men and women advanced in knowledge to join the Krishna Consciousness movement and sacrifice their lives for the great cause of reviving the God consciousness of human society. In other words, you know, in the Bhagavatam, there's some stories that sometimes, it was one Maharishi and one, I think, his name was Dadachi, and they were asked if they would give their bodies in sacrifice. And Maharishi said yes, or give their flesh, and said, to save a life of someone. So you have these examples of someone physically willing to give their body, flesh of their body, to save another person. So that same idea is being given here, not that you give the flesh of your body, but that we have something that's not going to last. And gradually what we have is dwindling. But what we have can be utilized. And it can be utilized to help other people. It can be utilized for a great cause. So if we look at this purport, if we kind of spin it on top of its head, Prabhupada's saying it's quite a waste of this body to use it for sense gratification. Because the body's here for a while, it's going to disintegrate. And in that time that you have it, something which is temporary, which is really not that useful. I mean, if you just use it for sense gratification, it's not very useful. But if you use it in the service of Krishna, even though it's not going to remain forever, at least that becomes useful. And so then the last line of the purport, Prabhupada is asking, you could say he's begging. Let me read this. We invite all men and women advanced in knowledge to join the Krishna Consciousness movement and sacrifice their lives for the great cause of reviving the God consciousness of human society. Now, this is a theme that you'll find throughout Prabhupada's preaching in the West, or since he came to the West. Sacrifice your life for the cause of Krishna consciousness. Give this body to the cause of spreading Krishna consciousness. Like give up everything. And whoa, surrender, give up everything. Yeah, that's what Prabhupada was asking. Now, how you give up everything will vary according to the individual. But that was the basic mood. We need men and women who will sacrifice this body that you have. And what's the sacrifice? You're not going to use it for sense gratification. You're going to use it for service. I need intelligent men and women who will use their body in the service of spreading Krishna consciousness, not in the service of sense gratification. And why should you do that? Because you're going to lose the body. It's like not really useful for anything else. That's what Prabhupada's saying. Your body is not useful for anything else other than spreading Krishna consciousness. Yes, that's the message. Okay, if I get rid of that window in the back, I have to get curtains on that. It's too much light back there. Is that better? Is there less light blocking me? So, yeah. Yeah. So this other line, if one is advanced in knowledge, he'll always be prepared to sacrifice anything for a better cause. So this is just what Brahmins do, what intelligent people do. The whole idea of the Brahmins is the Brahmins, they don't live for themselves. The Brahmins live very simple lives. And Prabhupada said, you probably heard this, that the Brahmins never keep money, so no matter how much money they get, they'll always use it in the service of others. So that's the mentality of Brahmins. It's whatever I have, it's for service. It's not for sense gratification. Samo dhammas taposocham. The Brahmins are sense controlled, so that nothing they have is for their sense gratification. I mean, this is a real Brahmin. So that's the idea. Everything the Brahmin has is for sacrifice. It's for service. It's for a higher cause, higher purpose. It's for the welfare of society. So that's what Prabhupada's saying. I need men and women who will be Brahmins, who will sacrifice their lives, sacrifice their sense gratification for the service of others. And then the logic, why not sacrifice it? Because what? Your body's going to be destroyed anyway. And so, you live for 50, 100 years. And I was talking about this in Mayapur. I think it's kind of funny. I was saying, we live and we just, what do we end up doing? We just end up using the resources of this world, occupying space, occupying oxygen, occupying food, employing it in sense gratification, then we die. So what's the point? But if you can use this life and this body, wear this body out in service, then that's glorious. The body's going to wear out anyway. Why wear it out in sense gratification? That is such a waste. Okay, so now we're going to go to 6:10:12. So I guess if you scroll back up in the chat a ways, well, there's some comments, so we won't go to 6:10:12 yet. But Kamaniya, can you bring it up again? Ekta says, in relation to the quote, where can we get the impetus to take our practice seriously now when we may not be experiencing so many troubles in life and things are comfortable? Philosophically, it makes sense, but the weakness of the mind and heart makes it difficult to take the practice seriously, otherwise we would easily surrender. Well, what I would say to you, Ekta, is no matter how great everything is, you could get the coronavirus tomorrow, or your mother or father could get it. Or no matter how everything great is, you could lose your job, the economy could crash, you won't be able to pay your bills. It's like, and so no matter how great everything is, we don't know tomorrow what's going to happen. So we have to see it that way. But I can tell you something else, that I had this problem when I was first a devotee. I think every class, I was going to 2 Bhagavad Gita classes a week and 1 Sunday feast. And as I remember, in every class, they said the material world is a place of misery. And materially, I had a very good situation at that time. I didn't work. I was in university and I wasn't taking that many classes. I had lots of free time. I had a few hours of classes and homework a day, maybe like 2 or 3 hours. That's all I had to put into school a day. And the rest of the time was free. And my parents paid my rent, paid, whatever expenses I had, they paid. So it was good. And I lived at a very exciting time in a very liberal place. So it was very, it was just like, I don't know how to describe it, but it's kind of like an awakening, like an enlightenment of the late 60s in a very liberal town, a college town. And so lots of just new things going on that I never knew about and people were discovering. So I would come to the temple and they would say, "You're suffering." And I would say, "I'm not suffering." I would think, I wouldn't tell them. I would think, "I'm not suffering. I don't know what you mean by suffering." And then I'd come back again and they'd say, "Life is miserable. You're suffering." And I would go back home and say, "My life isn't miserable. It's quite easy. And just a few hours of school, and I have lots of friends up here, and we, go hiking, and I have a band, and, we get high together, and, it's a nice town. It's a very avant-garde school situation." And then I'd go back and they'd say, "You're suffering." And it's not that I would doubt it per se. I would just think to myself, I don't understand why they keep saying that. I'm not suffering, and it doesn't look like looks like the people in this town are having a pretty good time. There's lots of people living there, and they have community gardens and protesting this and that, and I had such a hard time. I was so dull. I really was dull. Then one day I finally realized what they're saying. It's like, oh, now I get it. I may not be existentially suffering right now in my 19-year-old, very healthy, energetic body, living in an apartment with one of my best friends and having my parents pay for it and having my own car and having fun playing music with my friends and so forth. But I'm going to get old and die. Okay, now I get it. So that's it. So Ekta, no matter how good it is, someday it's not going to be so good. And someday we're going to be old and gray, full of arthritis and full of wrinkles. And one day Yamaraj is going to say, "Okay, it's time to go," or we will get our signal. So that's the idea. So when Prabhupada is saying we're suffering, he's quoting Brahma Bhuvana Loka. Wherever you go, Brahma Loka and downwards, you have to die. I mean, look at, the demigods. What's so interesting about the demigods is we read these stories where the demigods are being harassed by demons and there's wars and demons are going to come and take over their planet. Could you imagine? Could you imagine like aliens came and took over our planet? What that would be like? We're worried about some country attacking us and taking over. That would not be fun, but worse things could happen. What about the whole planet being taken over by demoniac people? So the demigods have to deal with that. So I think, we can just say, Prabhupada saying, hello, open your eyes. Everything, you may live nicely and you've got a good job and everything's comfortable and so on. But just 2 days ago, a disciple of mine, her father went to sleep, and I think apparently he ate too much, and in his sleep he vomited, and he choked on his vomit, had a heart attack, and died. It's like, who would expect that? But that's what happened. So we have to see it that way. I said yesterday when Prabhupada was leaving his body, he turned to the devotees and he said, don't think this won't happen to you. So although it's not happening to us now, we're supposed to think that it will happen. Although everything may be fine now, we have to think it will happen. Now the other thing, if you don't like morbid thoughts, because what I just described is a little kind of depressing. So if you want to go about it another way, then the other way is that there's a place where Krishna is living in ecstasy with all his devotees, and he's waiting for you. And no matter how good it is here, it doesn't compare to that. And that's where we're supposed to go to. And Krishna's waiting for us. And compared to that, this place is a total mess. So, as we said the other day, we have to see the world philosophically. That's the idea. See the world through philosophy. That's the idea. So if you see the world through philosophy, then you'll see all these things, right? Okay, I hope that answers your question. Mohini says, thinking the other day that especially at the young age, this feeling of mortality is so strong. Yeah. Mohini's 21. Yeah, the concept of dying when you're 21, it's foreign. Okay, so when young people died, Prabhupada said they died untimely, which is an interesting statement. Meaning they weren't supposed to die that young. But as we said in an earlier class, Prabhupada said, whether you die today or in 10 years, or whatever, in Mohini's case, could be 60 years, you think you're going to be ready? Like, well, I don't want to die today, but just give me a day's notice, I'll be ready. Even when, you're 80. Who's to say you'll be ready? You say, okay, I'm 80, I've lived a long life, I'm ready. I think most people are not really ready. So is it really going to be easier when you're 80 than when you're 20? Well, if you're Krishna conscious, it will be, but if you're not. And I would think even if you talk to your average 80-year-old and ask them, are you thinking, when you woke up this morning, were you thinking, today's my last day, today could be it? Probably most of them would say, well, I don't see any reason or indication why today would be it, so I'm not thinking that today's going to be the day. So 21 or 80, same problem. Ignorance is powerful, and ignorance at 21 and ignorance at 81. It's the same ignorance. So, if that verse in Bhagavatam, Pasyanapi na pashyati, it's describing how we see life is temporary. We see that our father has died or our grandfather has died. Like that. We see the relatives have died. Pasyanapi na pashyati. Pasyanapi means although we see, na pashyati, we don't see. So ignorance is very strong, that even though things are obvious, we don't see them. It's like, hello, it's in front of you. Pasyanapi na pasyati, but they don't see. That's the nature of ignorance. So, that same ignorance that I'm 21, I think I'm going to live forever. Even when you're 61, it's, if you don't overcome that ignorance, you'll still be thinking like that. So that's the problem. Ignorance, works on all ages equally. Yeah. The feeling of not immortality, mortality. Immortal means you don't die. Yeah. Yeah. Raphael says, if you're Krishna conscious, you will welcome death with open arms. Yeah, we have a quote about that. Well, depending, yeah, I don't know about open arms, but maybe not closed arms. Gratitude, yeah. You'll see, yeah, if you see death as Krishna, then yeah, open arms. Krishna has come to take me away. It's time to go. Okay. Just going down to see. Okay, so the next quote is 6:10:12. So this is about Dadachi giving up his body. I'm reading your comments silently. That not fair, right? Yeah. I'm going to read Story's comment because it's relating. Everything is temporary in this material world. I think this is also her answer to Ekta. Health, money, and relationships. Trying to detach isn't easy, but it is reality. I find it hard, but I know that I have to let go and try to attach to Krishna, and knowing that he will carry me through everything. Sometimes people who you are attached to end up hurting you, but that should be seen as another way to detach. Yeah. If we don't detach voluntarily, Krishna will help us by creating some problem that will cause us to detach. Detach, like your friend turning against you. Yeah, Marco says, yes, the most extraordinary thing in life is that people live as if they will never die. That's from Yudhisthira. In Krishna Consciousness, he says, it seems if someone reaches a certain age, they want to leave their body. My grandmother is 88, and she's often saying she wants to die. Yeah, if your body falls down, if your body falls apart, yeah. But if it doesn't, you don't want to die. I'm not sure she's ready to die, but she wants to. Yeah, naturally, if you're suffering, you want to die. I've been so sick, I've wanted to die, and I was only 25. So, if there's enough pain in the body, you want to get rid of the body. So that's there. But generally, if that's not the case, nobody wants to die unless they have psychological problems. So, yeah, physical pain, psychological problems. Yeah. Okay, let's read 6, 10, 12. And this is entitled, It's Easy for a Devotee to Leave His Body. That's good news. Translation. Didichi Muni, not Didachi, Didichi Muni controlled his senses, life force, mind, and intelligence, and became absorbed in trance. Thus he cut all his material bonds. He could not perceive how his material body became separated from his self. Purport, the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita. Okay, now we have it up. 6:10:12. Mehta put it up. Manjari put it up. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, Ante kala chamameva smaran mukta kalevaram yaprayati samadbhavam yati nastyatra samshaya. Whoever at the time of death quits his body remembering me alone, not just remembering me and everything else, remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Yeah, I remembered Krishna, and I remembered my girlfriend, and I remembered my favorite sweet ball. No, me alone. Of course, one must practice before one is overcome by death, but the perfect yogi, namely the devotee, dies in trance, thinking of Krishna. Okay, this part is really interesting. This is quite comforting also. He does not feel his material body being separated from his soul. The soul is immediately transferred to the spiritual world. Wow! Wow! That is so wonderful. That's a good reason to become a devotee. That might be one of the top 5 reasons to become a devotee. That when you leave your body, it's very easy. Let me read this again. He does not feel his material body being separated from his soul. The soul is immediately transferred to the spiritual world. And the Prabhupada described this in the first canto. It just like happens when a devotee leaves. It's just like he leaves his body, but the next moment he's in Leela. There was like no traumatic experience, no Yamadutas, no Koman waiting to see what body he's meant to take, no ghost body because he's attached to the body. It leaves the body, and the next moment we're all lamenting he left the body, but in that moment now he's in Leela, if that's his destination. And it's not painful. It's just Hello, there you are, dancing with Krishna. Good news, that might be the best thing you've heard all day. What level does he have to be on for that? Adhoksha just says, well, we're going to read a little more and find out. Sometimes Prabhupada says you have to be very Krishna conscious, and sometimes Prabhupada says that Krishna will make the arrangements for you. Yeah, you can remember the Guru at the time of death, it's natural. He does not feel his material body being separated from his soul. The soul is immediately transferred to the spiritual world. Good news. Tyakta deham punar janma naiti mam eti. Bhagavad Gita 4:9. The soul does not enter the womb of a material mother again, but is transferred back home, back to Godhead. This yoga, bhakti yoga, is the highest yoga system, as explained by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita 6:47. Yoginam api sarvesham madgatenantaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yomam samayuktatamo mataha. Of all yogis, he who always abides in me with great faith, worshipping me in transcendental loving service, is most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. The bhakti yogi always thinks of Krishna, and therefore at the time of death he can very easily transfer himself to Krishnaloka without even perceiving the pains of death. Wow, that is amazing. The bhakti yogi always thinks of Krishna, and therefore at the time of death he can very easily transfer himself to Krishnaloka without even perceiving the pains of death. So if we're Krishna conscious, death is going to be a very easy and blissful process. And that's, a lot of devotees, when we started this session, we started this, we could call it a course, I guess, because now we're on day 9, I think. It's like a seminar on dying. A lot of devotees were feeling or had mentioned that they have lots of fear surrounding death, even to the point where just talking about this subject was difficult. And now we have this beautiful quote, how death is very easy for a devotee who's thinking of Krishna. Of course, you have to be thinking of Krishna. Trying to go back a little bit, there's a few comments. Sometimes I don't read all the comments because you can read the comments, but if it doesn't relate to what I'm talking about directly, Prabhupada says she feels like a misfit, so she wants to leave. But we may want to leave, but we have to leave in the mood that I want to leave, so I can develop my Krishna consciousness and serve Krishna. And now I'm on the earth, I have this body. It would be great to be out of the body, wouldn't it? Like have no body and be liberated. But now that I'm in the body and I have the body, Krishna wants me to use the body in his service. So I can't be overly occupied with, I just want to get out of here, I wish I could die today. Because that's also not, we understand the sentiment. I think sometimes we've all felt that a little bit, that, well, it's, material life, I just would like to leave it all. But we also have our service here, and the body's going to live for a certain number of years. And Prabhupada, who knows, maybe you'll live to 88, maybe you'll live to 108. So we want to kind of come to this point where we understand the nature of the world and the misery, and we want to go back to Krishna, but we're not like overly anxious to leave our body because we have this body to serve Krishna. That's a better way of thinking. Healthier, I think. Okay. I'm prison in the body, you are. We are prison in the body. But Prabhupada said, make the best use of a bad bargain. And the point is, there's this, I'm not sure where in the Gita it is, but this beautiful statement where Prabhupada's saying, a devotee, he doesn't want to be in the body, but he doesn't want to be out of the body, because he wants to be where Krishna wants him. And so there's this idea of we have to become detached from the desire to be detached. Sometimes the desire to be detached is counterproductive. So sometimes the desire to be detached is being generated from a personal motivation. Then I have to become detached from the desire to become detached, because that desire is not pure. So it's something like that. It's beyond duality. I don't want to be in the body, don't want to be out of the body. Whatever Krishna wants, then I'll do that. Then we'll be more peaceful. Yeah, and now Vrindavan Leela says she has back pain. Sometimes it gets so intense she'd like to leave her body. And then she thinks, I have all my attachments here. I can't live without my attachments. No, you can, don't worry. We think we can't live without all these attachments. I'm here to tell you, you can. And let's remember the story of Dhruva Maharaj. Dhruva Maharaj had some pretty big attachments, he wanted to control the universe, basically. Right? So that was pretty big. He had a pretty big attachment there. He wants to be Lord of the universe. Hold on a second. He wanted his own planet. So that's a pretty big attachment. And then what happened, you know the story, but he saw Krishna. Krishna appeared. And Krishna said, okay, I'm here to give you what you want, because I know you're super, super attached to retaliating for the offense your father made, and that you want to be more powerful than him, so I'm here to fulfill that. And once he saw Krishna, he was like, oh my God, truly, oh my God, I can't believe this. You are so beautiful. I'm so stupid to want anything else. You're all I want. No, don't give me anything else. And Lord Vishnu is like, no, I want to give it to you. No, I don't want it. It's like, no, but you want it. No, but not now. Now I'm seeing you, I don't want it. No, but you were asking for it. I know you want it. I want to give it to you. No, that's insignificant. So that we have to realize, that we'll be like Dhruva Maharaj. You think, I'm so attached to so many things. Look at this. I have some headphones I use in my studio. These are what is it? Who makes them? Barodynamic. Barodynamic. Very good. I'm very attached. Look what I have. A camera. Nice camera, D80. You could actually make a movie with this camera. Not the best camera, but good. Look what I have on my desk. I have some nice speakers, a big screen. Look over here. I have a guitar. And I have a nice recorder. I have so many gizmos and gadgets, right? Okay. You think you think these things are going to keep me in the material world, that I'm stupid enough? And of course, say, but you have a wife, you have a daughter, you have disciples, you have living beings. And yes, of course, we have attachments for all of these things. So what did Prabhupada say? This is the Mahavakya for our attachments. Yes, Prabhupada once said, you see this watch? this belongs to Krishna. But if you try to get it from me, I won't give it to you, because Krishna has given me this watch, so I'm going to use it into service. So yes, I'm attached to these because it helps me in my service. I'm attached to this. It helps me in my service. But beyond that, no attachment. But then you say, I could show you like lots of things in the other room, like studio lighting and more microphones and speakers and everything. So it's okay to be attached if you're using it for Krishna and not for sense gratification. That's a totally different kind of attachment. And then say, well, what about your daughter? What about your wife? What about your friends? What about your disciples? Are you attached to them? Yes, of course. It's natural. And if we're attached to devotees, we'll become liberated. And if we think of devotees when we die, that's perfection. But the attachment shouldn't be material. Material attachment means I get sense gratification from the person or the object. Spiritual attachment means I get liberation from the person or the object. You know that story I told? I'm going to tell it again because it's such an important story and it's a beautiful story. And I have to give you some context for this story. In the 70s, the early days of our movement, Prabhupada was giving sannyas to young men. And when a young man wants to take sannyas, or even when a young man wants to remain brahmachari, often in an immature state, the way they maintain their detachment is by thinking about how bad sense gratification is, or how bad the objects of attachment that they're attached to are. Just reminding themselves that it's really bad. So often we would hear classes about how bad grihastha life is, how bad sex is, how bad women are and attachment to women. This was quite common. Now, we were all young and we were all struggling and fighting. So when we heard those classes, we were like, yeah, great class. Needed to hear that. I needed to hear that, the body is made of mucus. That beautiful body of that young, beautiful woman is just blood and stool and mucus and bile. I needed to hear that. Yeah. Then I go out, do Sankirtan, don't get attracted to all the women I'm speaking to, because today I heard class and I just see them all as walking bags of mucus, bile, and stool. Hare Krishna. So it was something like that, right? You understand the mood, right? That you've probably seen that mood, but that mood was very prominent in the early 70s. So there's a morning walk, and one sannyasi who's young, obviously, must have been like 24. Srila Prabhupada, isn't it true that woman is the cause of all material entanglement? Prabhupada didn't say anything. They're walking. Prabhupada, isn't it true that the cause of bondage in the material world is attraction to sex? Prabhupada didn't say anything. Prabhupada, isn't it true that the cause of bondage in the material world is attraction to women? That's the deep well. Finally, Prabhupada said, yes, Shastra says like that. Prabhupada didn't want to talk about it. So I believe it was all men on the morning walk, and in the temple, the women had stayed back to do the puja, cooking, cleaning. So when Prabhupada returned from his walk, the only people to greet Prabhupada when he came into the temple were the women who stayed back. There were 4 women, like Malati and Palika, and Narayani, and Madhuri, I think. So when Prabhupada saw them, they paid obeisances, and Prabhupada said, yes, woman is the cause of bondage. He said, but if you associate with these women, then you'll go back home, back to Godhead. So what was the point Prabhupada was making? That you could even be attached to those women, but not attached for sense gratification, but attached to them as God sisters, attached to them in the sense of we're together serving Krishna, together we can help one another, although, there wasn't so much association of male-female, but just for the sake of discussion. Or I could learn from them, they give a class. There's no sense gratification involved in the attachment. So the attachment is pure. It's based on pure affection. It's based on coming together. We help one another become Krishna conscious. So I think that's kind of clear. But then you might say, well, what about, but your wife or your mother or your daughter or your son, aren't they natural objects of attachment? And they are. And aren't they natural objects of material attachment? And potentially yes, because there's a lot of pleasure on a more material level you can get from that. And Prabhupada said, in the Gita, Prabhupada said you should be detached from family. But when he was finally asked, he said, well, that attachment is natural, but just don't have so much attachment that it becomes a cause of problem for you in your spiritual life. That's the whole point. So that attachment can be cultivated in a way that you become more Krishna conscious. Like last night, my wife, she said, we should read together. We should do something together. Okay, so we'll read. We'll have kirtan and read. So last night I was reading Krishna book. Very dramatically, reading the story of Shishupal. And Shishupal did his monologue about why Krishna should not be elected to be the first worshipped. It was like a lawyer making his case to the jury. So I was reading it very dramatically. It was very ecstatic. And I was thinking, so husband and wife together, and what are we doing? We're reading Krishna book. So, and so we're very attached when we can do something together that makes us Krishna conscious. And so what's the attachment? The attachment is ultimately to Krishna. The attachment to that person is how that person helps you remember Krishna. And anyone who helps you become Krishna conscious, you become attached to. You want to be in their association. You feel love and affection for them, isn't it? It's a fact. So, we should not be attached to anything that we can't use for Krishna. And if we are attached to something circumstantially, like your black cat or whatever, and as Prabhupada said, not so attached that it becomes a cause of bondage. So the attachment, you know why we become attached. The real secret is going to now come out. Because we become attached to what gives us sense gratification. That's where material attachment comes. It comes from sense gratification. So if I'm getting sense gratifications from something, then I become very attached to it. Isn't it? Yes. So if I'm getting sense gratification from this, I'm listening to all this non-devotional music, and I'm like, these headphones are amazing. I'll become very attached, and whatever. I mean, it's not a good example. But maybe my guitar is a better example. Just using it to gratify my senses, I become very attached. I can't give it up. I can't put it down. So we want to purify our attachments. So I like playing guitar, I like making music, I like making videos, whatever. Okay, no problem. When I want to show you something. Let's take a tour. We'll make this class like interactive tour. Okay, let's go in my Bacham Kutir here. Okay, so this is my studio. I could turn the camera around. Let's see if I can turn it around. Let me give you a tour. Okay, so this is my beautiful studio. A beautiful picture of Prabhupada. And these amazing speakers. We have more headphones. We have a little equipment here. Nice computer, Mac. And a few other pieces of gear that are hiding. And these are my lights for my studio, where I do my videos. And the microphone I use for my video, and then the mixer that it goes through, and all kinds of other stuff here. And I have up here a keyboard that's not out and some modules, and and I show you my guitar and all this. Okay, so if I were not a devotee, I could spend the rest of my life here, just sitting in this chair right here. I could spend my life sitting in this chair in front of this desk, making music, mixing music, and you'd never see me again. My wife would divorce me. My daughter would divorce me. And the world wouldn't even know if I were alive. And so, and here's the back, reflectors, and we have a beautiful picture of Prabhupada, and insulation. And this is the screen, my backdrop screen for my videos. I could also spend the rest of my life making videos. And so when I built this studio, I made a vow. Can you see me? This is backwards. I made a vow. You want to know the vow I made? The vow I made was, I don't know if you can see me properly, as the camera's turned around. The vow I made was, I will only use this studio for service. I won't use it for anything else. So actually, I'm not that attached. And the reason is, as I said, because attachment comes from utilizing something for sense gratification. Because I made a vow, I will only use this in the service of Krishna. I'm not that attached to it. I just came back. I've been on the road for 5.5 months. I wasn't dying to, I'm not in my studio. How can I live? No. Because I was serving Krishna there. So, does that make sense? That's how attachment comes. Okay, I'm going to turn everything around. Hold on. You're going to see the back of my desk. And then we're going to spin it around. And you get to see me again. So, would you like to go outside? See what else I could become attached to? Okay, let's go outside. This will be fun. I'm going to turn you around again. Let's have fun here. This is the property. Look at this. In the distance, I don't know if you can see in the distance, it's actually a forest, like 130 acres that surrounds our property. That's our neighbors, devotees I've known for like 40 years. That's our house. There's a forest back there. This is in the back. You saw the studio. This is my office in front. Bit of a mess, but could be worse, right? And my wife uses this office also. I have a couch here, and we're just back from India unloading things where her clients sit. I have a lot to be attached to, don't I? And my beautiful computer. You like my beautiful computer? Okay, why am I... Okay, I'm going to turn you around again. Do you like that tour? Okay. So why am I showing you all of this? Because it's very easy to become attached to anything, but if we make this consciousness, okay, I have these things, I'm only going to use it for Krishna, then there's no material attachment. Then you can give it up. Krishna says, time to give all this up, take sannyas or leave your body or move somewhere else. You're like, fine, I'm not attached. Why am I not attached? Because I didn't engage it in sense gratification, even though it has the potential to enjoy. We could enjoy that. So that's my point. And is that clear? What does it mean to be Krishna conscious in the moment of death? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare. How can a person who leaves their body while sleeping remember Krishna? If he's a devotee, we're going to read some quotes. If he's a devotee, Krishna will take care of him. Ganesha says, once you ask the question that if right now there's a plane going to Vaikuntha and you can get on it, but you have to get on at this very moment, would you agree? Yeah, then they would reflect on. Okay, Krishna says, let's go. But, my headphones. The Vaikuntha plane is waiting. But, my microphone. But, my camera. I don't know. I really like this microphone. It's really good in here. And I haven't read this book yet. And my computer still works. And so the point is, you don't want to be in a situation in your life where if Krishna knocked on the door and said, well, you have been chosen to win a special prize. Really? What's the prize? You get to go back home, back to Godhead today. Really? But the condition is you can't tell anybody. Okay, you can write a note, but that's it. Then you're going. Are you ready to go? Oh, no, I have to think about this one. What about my daughter? What about my wife? What about my mother? What about my father? We're not supposed to be like that. We're supposed to be detached enough now that we're supposed to be detached enough to say, okay. And Garuda says, I can assure you I'm not overly eager to leave the body. Yeah, I can relate. Hare Krishna. Yeah. Life is good. So, my godbrother, Indra Swami, he had some skin cancer, or I don't know, it was a while back, maybe 6 years ago. And if the skin cancer gets inside, then it's likely it's going to spread throughout the body and there's nothing that can be done and you'll die. And he didn't know if that was going to happen. And so he was dealing with this reality. And he said it was very heavy, because it wasn't just talking about it, it was actually real. It was really heavy to deal with that. But I also think because he has such a desire to preach, and he wants many, many years to develop his preaching programs. So, yes. Anyway, hopefully, by discussing these things, we can have a little more. It's going to be a little easier for us. Prabhupada assured us that he does not feel his material body being separated from his soul. That's very assuring. But the next thing we're going to read is how a devotee, I think, Garuda, I think my gut intuition is that I totally relate to what you're saying, and there's another side of me, the intuition that says Krishna is like, he takes such care of his devotees that he's going to make it just like amazing and not difficult, and it could be like this totally amazing experience for us. Krishna Consciousness says, I don't want to die, I want to be useful in Sankirtan. It's such a privilege. Yeah, definitely. I feel the same way. I want to live to be healthy and 108 because it's probably take me that long to do something significant. Bhakti Prabhu is watching from Scotland, remembering me. And Raphael says, he's 34 and on the verge of death. Destroyed his body, yeah. Anyway, whatever you have, use it for Krishna. Well, you know, the Bhagavatam says if we're going to become attached, Prabha, become attached to devotees. I mean, you know, it's like you can't not be attached. But, you know, we have so much attachment to devotees, but part of the reason, or the main reason, is because we get so much Krishna consciousness from them. That's why we become attached. But that attachment's good. Because a devotee means Krishna. Think of devotee, think of Krishna. Right. Hare Krishna. Parker is saying, it sounds like you're saying our focus to develop Krishna consciousness. So whatever we're here or there, whether we're here or there doesn't matter, we're going to be doing the same thing. Yes. I mean, ultimately, we have to learn that lesson. Krishna wants us here. We may not even want to be here, but we stay here. And if he wants us there, we may want to be here, and we have to go there. That's the ultimate consciousness. Is it okay to be attached to devotees? Yes, because you're not attached to devotees, you become attached to a black cat. Or something like that. You know, like when you look at the story of Jad Bharat, and then you think, well, look there's this fawn, and the fawn is helpless. So shouldn't a devotee help the animal? Or just like Vrindavan Leela has a black cat, should she not take care of it? And the answer is yes. If that animal is dependent on you, you should take care of it. But what we learn from Jad Bharat is that his attachment to the animal went beyond healthy. It went to the point where it diverted him from his sadhana. And so, you know, we were talking about that. Anything that diverts you from your sadhana could not be good. Right? So that's the point. So attachment to devotees is not going to divert you from your sadhana unless the attachment's material. So that's the barometer of attachment. Is it bringing you to Krishna or taking you away? Yeah. Not attached to the body, take care of it. Like Prabhupada says, the body's a bad bargain, but I like to think of it also, if you look at your body, you see that you have so many talents and abilities, so your body can do certain things. Like some bodies can sing really well, and it's such a blessing to be able to sing well, because you can share kirtan in a way that people really become inspired by Krishna consciousness. Or some bodies have just good brains, good ability to understand philosophy, to explain it concisely and simply in easily understandable ways, but in ways that resonate and are extremely interesting to people. That's a blessing. Some people have the blessing, they can put their thoughts in written words in a way that people understand and appreciate and go more deeply into Krishna consciousness. And some have artistic ability where they can express Krishna consciousness visually, or have Vaishya ability, marketing ability, where they can reach greater numbers of people, or organizational ability, etc. So the way I personally like to think, when I look at my own abilities, not in a proud or arrogant way, and not trying to be artificially humble and say, no, I'm useless. And no, you actually look at what you're good at, and you say, thank you, Krishna. I'm happy to be in this body because I'm able to do A, B, and C for you. And I'm happy to have a body that has those capabilities. And that way we can appreciate that we can use our talents. So that way we're not overly detached. I want to get out of this material world. I hate it. And we're not overly attached. I never want to get out of this world, and I love it. But I'm here, and I appreciate that I can serve Krishna with the talents I have. Thank you, Krishna, for giving me these talents. So that sense, I appreciate the body. And then when it's time to leave the body, then we can thank the body. Thank you for facilitating my service. You enabled me to do so many things. Now it's time to go. Something like that. So that's okay. So now we're going through the comments about the tour. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Be Krishna conscious means, this is Marco, remember Krishna 24 hours a day. While we're sleeping, can dream about Krishna. Yeah, that's a pretty advanced state, but there is that state where you'll never forget Krishna. Dinanath is saying, Dinesh, I'm getting attached to your house just by seeing it. Yeah, and who wants to go to Vaikuntha? No. And sometimes Prabhupada would say, use the word Vaikuntha as a generalization to spiritual world. So Prabhupada is saying, I'd have trouble. I'm not too attached to my son. I'm done. Yeah. Anyway, the thing is, we don't know. We ultimately don't know how attached we are until it actually happens. But these discussions are there just to help us moderate through the world in such a way. Moderate, is that the word? No. To live in the world in a moderate way. Not to be artificially detached and not to be too materially attached, but to live in a balanced way so that when necessary we can detach. Like the way the world's going today, there may be things we're going to need to detach from. Okay, so yeah, you can give up a lot. Alachua, Olivia is saying there's a book that talks about detaching by giving things away that you don't need. Yeah, it's true. It's a nice thing to do. So we know the statement about going to Boma Vrindavan. Is it possible to go exactly to Gokul? If you have prema, then you don't need to go to Boma. Michael says, I'm attached to these morning classes. That's good attachment. Raphael says, are you allowed to see my lotus feet? If I had lotus feet, yeah, but one time a devotee wanted to touch Prabhupada's feet. Prabhupada said, no, it's not necessary. So, Raphael, you can touch the feet of all the Vaishnavas, but if you touch someone's feet, the idea is you're surrendering, you're accepting that person as your superior. So sometimes we do that jokingly, but if you actually touch someone's feet, it means they're your superior. And Prabhupada was asked, what does it mean to take shelter of the lotus feet or to be a particle of dust at the lotus feet? And Prabhupada said it means to follow the order of that person, to follow their instruction. That's what it means. Okay. Yeah, so Nitai says he listens to Kirtan all the time. Yeah, a lot of devotees do that. It's great. Let's go to the next quote. If you scroll back up, it's 6:11:21. Under Kamaniya's name. And I titled this, A Devotee is always ready to give up his body. This is a pure devotee, of course. By the force of your thunderbolt, I shall be freed of material bondage and shall give up this body and this world of material desires. I believe this is Vritrasura speaking to Indra. Fixing my mind upon the lotus feet of Lord Sankarshan, I shall attain the destination of such great sages as Narada Muni. I shall attain the destination of such great sages as Narada Muni, just as Lord Sankarshan has said. Purport. The words aham samhadhaya manaha indicate that the most important duty at the time of death is to concentrate one's mind. If one can fix his mind on the lotus feet of Krishna, Vishnu, Sankarshan, or any Vishnu Murti, his life will be successful. To be killed while fixing his mind at the lotus feet of Sankarshan, Vritrasura asked Indra to release his Vajra, or thunderbolt. He was destined to be killed by the thunderbolt given by Lord Vishnu. There was no question of its being baffled. Therefore, Vritrasura requested Indra to release the thunderbolt immediately, and he prepared himself by fixing his mind at the lotus feet of Krishna. So this was foretold or destined that Vritrasura would be killed by Indra's thunderbolt. And he wasn't trying to avoid it. He accepted it. And he's in Krishna consciousness, so he's telling Indra, so, okay, I'm ready, shoot your thunderbolt. It's amazing. He's totally ready to leave his body. And then Prabhupada goes on to say, a devotee is always ready to give up his material body, which is described herein as Gramya Pasha, the rope of material attachment. The body is not at all good. It is simply a cause of bondage to the material world. Unfortunately, even though the body is destined for destruction, fools and rascals invest all their faith in the body and are never eager to return home back to Godhead. So when Prabhupada says it, you might be reading this and saying, oh, Prabhupada says, a devotee is always ready to give up his material body. But maybe I'm not always ready. Yeah, so Prabhupada's describing a pure devotee. And we're trying to be pure devotees. And Prabhupada tells us how pure devotees think and how pure devotees act. And why does he tell us? So that we can emulate that as best we can, so that we can follow in their footsteps, and that we can try to be that way. And obviously, that's maybe a long way to go. But the power of Krishna consciousness is such that it's possible, even for us, to detach enough. And although we may say, well, I don't feel ready to leave my body. I think most of us would say that. But when it actually happens, my conviction is Krishna will make us completely ready to deal with it. From what I've seen of other God brothers who have left their bodies, he seems so ready. In fact, we had one God brother, and his wife was telling me, right up to the last hours of his dying, he was just cracking jokes. I was like, just making jokes about the world and his body and politics and this and that. It was amazing. So Krishna had given him that ability to detach. Another story I heard was a devotee who didn't really see herself as very advanced. In her last days, she had become, from what I was told, very absorbed in Krishna consciousness and understanding her sthayi bhav, her relation with Krishna, in meditating on I think she felt she was in conjugal rasa and meditating on that, and it's just like she just expressed this whole new realm of Krishna consciousness opened up to her. So I think that's important to note, that Krishna will, that we should have faith that Krishna will make us ready even if we're not ready. So Prabhupada says, devotee is always ready to give up his body, and you may feel like, well, I'm not always ready, I don't feel always ready, but I think we need faith that if the time comes, Krishna will make us ready, he'll give us the strength. So, and then we can take solace in that. So, attached to Srila Prabhupada? Yes, of course. Attached to, anything Krishna conscious, be attached to. So, I'm going to end now, with your permission, a few minutes earlier, and I hope this was beneficial, and become attached to Krishna, become attached to Krishna's devotees. You can become attached to all the things you have. Yes, as Prabhupada said, and you want to get this watch from me? You're not. Because I use this for Krishna, so I'm attached to this watch. I use this for Krishna, I'm attached. I use this for Krishna, I'm attached. I use so many things for Krishna, I'm attached. But I'm not materially attached. Okay, one last question. Spiritual dreams. Someone said, I had a dream, specific, and I say, well, what happened? Well, is what happened in the dream relatable to the actual process of Krishna consciousness, or what Krishna consciousness is? What was heard in the dream? Was it Krishna conscious? One time, devotee did a painting. Just out of his head, he just made a painting of Krishna. And Prabhupada said, what Leela is that? And he said, no, Leela, I just painted it. And Prabhupada said, forget this painting. You can't just make it up. So if you have dreams which relate to some siddhanta, and you wake up from that dream feeling very blissful, very detached, very inspired, that would be a sign. Okay, so we're going to end class now, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow, and invite your friends to come. Ask them if they're afraid, if they're concerned about dying, or if they want to die in Krishna consciousness, then these classes would help them. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, thank you. We'll see you tomorrow.